the next film we're about to talk, but you have a sword. It's Kill Bill. Quentin Tarantino offered you the role of Oren Ishii. Could you tell us more about the casting process?
Well, luckily the casting process was him calling me.
Much better.
You know, back then it was you have a phone that's connected to the wall, and the phone rings and you don't necessarily know who it is, and you pick it up and it's Quentin Tarantino.
So you were in his mind at the very early stage of the writing or production?
Yes, and I didn't know that. I mean, he told me that afterwards, and Quentin has this energy and this verve and this vibe. It's unmistakably who he is and how he creates. And it was astonishing to receive the call, and he had said that he was so inspired by my character and how I portrayed that character, the princess from Shanghai Noon, Princess Pepe, and how she was there for the people. And I was so surprised because I thought he was going to say, I really loved Alex Mundy from Charlie's Angels, and I really thought she was so fierce, and this is why I wrote this character. But it was actually the compassion that he felt for her, not for Alex. And I was so surprised, because that just shows you how soft his heart is,
Interesting. And how did he explain you his vision, the global vision of the project Kill Bill, which was quite unique, and the character of Oren Ishii?
Well, he said that he was still working on the draft, and that it was close to being finished, and that he would send it to me. And when it was ready, we met, and I met him at a rock and roll Thai restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. It was the two of us, and of course, a restaurant full of people, very casual, delicious food. And he sat across from me like you are. We're, a little bit closer because it was just a table between us. And I'll never forget it. He had pulled out his script. And at the time it was only one script, it wasn't two. It didn't split into two until we started to film it, and then it became this enormous, epic project. And then he stood up, and then he opened up the page, and then he started to act out everything. And it was, he set the stage, and he created this moment. He got close to my face, and then he went back, and then he pulled out the sword, and it was just like so dramatic and gorgeous. And
for 4 hours. No.
But everybody in the restaurant knew who he was, because he was Quentin Tarantino, and he doesn't have a whisper voice, so he's like standing there, dramatically, with this lavish gesticulations, and everyone's like eating with their chopsticks, and they just stop, and it was just remarkable because it's me, I'm hearing it for the first time, but I'm witnessing him, and I'm also witnessing the audience that's around him, and I didn't know what to focus on, you know what I mean? And it was just this beautiful moment of...
So he spoiled the film to the clients of the restaurant?
No, but he was giving me her description, and acting out the scenes, and, talk about somebody who's a true auteur, and we just really connected so much on a personal level, and you can't bottle that passion. I mean, if you could, you would go to the moon. You would rocket to the moon. But it was something that I will always carry with me, and pad thai. I just remember smelling the pad thai and the Thai iced tea, and that sweet, sour smell. Like, all of my senses were so alert at that moment.
And did he also mention the films that inspired him for Kill Bill, or did he ask you or suggest you to watch some of Japanimation film or Yakuza film or martial art films that are that he paid tribute to this film in Kill Bill?
He did actually, and
Lady Snowblood, for instance.
Yes, yes. He said that there was some films that were, at that time there wasn't streaming at all, so everything was on like
Print.
It was on. Well, that was even unavailable. But it was either on the VCR, and I don't even know. I can't remember at that time. It was 2000. It was the early noughts, and I don't know that there was even
early DVDs. No, maybe.
Not even. I don't believe. Maybe they were like laser discs. It wasn't an 8-track. It definitely wasn't an 8-track, but it was something that I remember having to find, and he's just a wonderful artist, and I admire him so much. But yes, he did give me some of his inspirations, and there's like a really long list, because he knows so much about filmography. But I did look at them, and I understood what he was looking for, and of course I would bring my own feeling into it. And when I read the script, it was like reading a novel. It was so smooth and so elegant.
Yeah, that's one of the particularity of Tarantino's work, and especially this one, that it's both very physical for the actors, and at the same time the dialogues are very crucial. So how did you work with the actor and the actresses about I guess he's very precise about the dialogues and about everything, so do you rehearse a lot, and did you practice a special training for the famous sequence of the final duel?
Yes. Well, first we were all put into like a conditioning camp, where we would go to this training center in Los Angeles, and all of us lady killers were doing all the kung fu. So even though I didn't do any kung fu in the movie, we did it for this, for training. And I also did the samurai sword training with Sonny Chiba, who was my teacher, my sensei. And at one point I said, since I'm not doing any of the martial arts part, can I just focus on the sword training? And eventually I just focused on that, because I was also taking Japanese lessons. So I just wanted to be very precise about all of it. It's a very specific role, and he wrote it, because he wanted that moment of, that mixed race of the Chinese-Japanese connection, and that, that she was born from a mixed race, and also that Kate had a history. We know what happened to her family, and so giving that.
Actually, you are the most developed character in Kill Bill, because we know also everything about your childhood, which is not the case of the other characters.
Right, and that's a really special thing. And it was, he was really so inundated with so many different wonderful artists from Japan who did the anime, and he was so taken by like so many that he couldn't choose just one, so he had two. He did one for when she was older and one when she was younger. And yeah, so it's like he's such an appreciation for the art form, and it really gave me, I didn't see those until much later. Obviously I read it in the script, but he really was generous by giving that to the character, to give her some, to have the audience connect with her more in the end.
You mentioned Shanghai